Alright, kicking off another second to last turn of dominant species, and we know that because we don't have the Ice Age out and it's sitting there. First three players jumped on domination right away, in part because some interesting cards out here, especially the one that gives victory points for the niche biomes, but then also ones that fiddle with survivability and possibly things to add additional pieces to the board and whatnot. But the last couple of players who chose kind of jumped on the bandwagon without as much value to it, just with the kind of, geez, I'm so far behind, the only way I can keep up, I have to have one of these, I have to be able to score my best place. And I think if I don't do this, somebody else is going to go for a second one before I get another shot. That left black out in the cold here. They chose to do some adaptation. We're at the point where some of these pools are down to nothing in terms of the ability to throw more pieces on the board. So this is really all that yellow and black can have to play with. And then some of these others are fairly low. They can expand a little bit if they like, but it's almost a waste of an action to do so. Only really blue and white have enough gene pool to maybe be worth doing a speciation at this point. So we're seeing a slightly different flavor to how the game goes forward, I think. On the next pass through, another kind of grabbing of everybody kind of going for the same kinds of things. The Wanderlust fills up with maybe not the first three players because Green wanted to get an adaptation in there. He thinks he's not terribly suited for the world, especially when there are things like the Eco-Diversity card, which gives him a bonus for that he may pick up. White also went in there for the same reason, but the Wanderlusts were gone by that time. Black is again left with the screwed decision being in last in order. He decides to fix that, going for the initiative, but also that'll give him the last migration action, which, as I've noted before, is a valuable thing to have. Being the first person to migration is not as valuable as being the last person, and the way to get that is to sit up here in the initiative box. So it's kind of a double bonus to that space. Not only do you get your action, but you get actually a pretty good action out of it, and it becomes valuable at certain times. Another time, the choices were a lot harder to make. We're running out of things that are even valuable. The amphibians jumped in, took next turn's glaciation, for example. Red covered up their depletion, so no one else can knock out one of their couple of really valuable places. Now, other people are tagging along with them, blue especially, which is a problem, but they know they want grubs because that's their heart of their critter. They decided not to take the wasteland one out, although they may use their piece for that as well to keep this one in play. Just because they're going to have to cope with that next turn if they don't kill it this turn. And it's hard to find too many actions. Seeing some speciation from Green who doesn't really need it, but and then a competition from Black taking that powerful Sea Jungle combination with the Tundra, of course, so that they can pick off some enemy critters. On to the next one, I guess. Nearly the final time around, you see migrations beginning to be picked up. Additional abundance here. I see a problem for yellow, the birds. They've got a regression event that's going to affect them that they didn't take advantage of. They're short. They only have 3 cylinders. Everyone else has at least 4. So they don't have as many options as other people do. Red's got the extra option, an extra cylinder. Blue does too, I think, because they've got one kicking here from last turn. And this is the decision. Do I want to migrate or do I want to protect my wasteland? I chose to do a competition before. It's very nice to cover Blue's movement with them in the lead there. On the other hand, I think this is more important in the long run. Blue might be able to sleeve some points, but there are plenty of people moving after Blue. Just not Red. Red's the one who is the most able to hurt blue's positioning. So blue will get a movement, but red has chosen to take additional competitions, mainly because jungle, wetlands, tundra, they can hit blue pieces all over the place. Losing this, I don't know. I don't know which way to look at it, because that's not that terribly valuable a piece. I can survive in there. Yeah, I'm going to take my migration and cover blue's movement. Alright, well, we're ready to start the actual activation, and I've got to go to... I'll give him black's choice, I guess, to go with an abundance at the end. We've got a migration that seems worthwhile. I could do some more competition, conceivably. Not sure what I could hit. Mountain and sea wouldn't be too bad. I could shoot both of those. Not sure how much I need to move. That's kind of the issue. It's nice grabbing that final movement, but let's pick off other people's stuff. I think I've got a hard job with the pieces on the board. I've got to start killing things. Granted, I'm probably just not going to be able to do it, but, you know, I mean, about a third the leader's points. Okay. To adaption, it's time to pick up some new critter abilities. What do I need with black? Well, another nut could be useful. I mean, you know, it's kind of hopeless for these guys towards the end now. I don't think they have a real shot. Just white may, because they have some cubes, but black and yellow don't have any cubes left. So there's just not much I can do. I don't know what to take, to tell you the truth. I'm near water. I'm going to grab a water. That'll expand my total number of options. That gives it to green. Green's going to get to pick one up. Got to be careful not to get hit with the regression. That's an issue. Green doesn't want more grass. Grass is great and all, but it looks like nuts are closer to them than anything else. They'll grab a nut. And white doesn't want more bones, so they'll grab a grass. It's not that it's terrible to have a third one of your own, but you're extending your own survivability the more of these that you have. Your ability to stay in an environment without having to move out of it or do any actions to deal with it. Now we got the regression, and that's a sun. And that affects a couple of people. The arachnids and the birds each lose one of theirs. Now, all this change, geez, it's time to calculate again because lots of things have just changed. The adaptions have added values to a couple of people. The regression has reduced values. I've got to recalculate everything, basically. And that's the problem. You know, you either have lots and lots of little recalculations or, oh shit, I got to do a lot of big ones all at once, you know? Yeah, great fun. Basically, what all this recalculation reminds me of is calculating runs out in 18XX, except that in XX, one person's responsible for calculating one run out at one time. It would be as if to make your decisions in XX as to which railroad you wanted to buy a track on, you stopped and counted what the runs of each railroad were at the beginning of each stock round, in addition to figuring them out in the operating rounds. And, you know, there are ways around that by spreadsheeting XX so that you don't have to deal with that. If it were that way, if people were deciding that they were going to count out everything, then spreadsheeting makes sense. If they didn't want to do that, if they wanted quick decisions, no paperwork, yet someone insisted on doing that, that would suck. It would really suck. In Dominant Species, however, you're forced to make this calculation at least once a turn where you're looking at every single hex, more or less. I mean, obviously, this one is just blue, but you got to be careful because this one is not a dominant hex. And, you know, every time I do it, I find, this one I had it to tie, it apparently isn't one. I'm not sure why I didn't have a green cone there, but one belongs there. And you just have to keep recalculating anytime any little thing changes because it could skew many of these hexes. So, you know, it's just a really hefty burden to keep the game up to date. Now, you're not required to by the rules, but any player who's reasonable and thinks he may have gotten an advantage will count it. So there's going to be these lulls where everybody's kind of sitting there counting their pieces, you know, because something changed, to see if it's in their advantage to announce that something changed. Okay, on to some more quick and fairly easy decisions. The birds, who are down to nothing but their nuts again. Do birds have nuts? I mean, obviously they have something, but I've tried blowing and I can't see any. I can't tell how to differentiate a male and female except by what they do. Now we go to black, who clearly wants to add more sun to the world. They don't want to help anyone else. That's their bonus right now. Now, they don't have a tremendously good place to drop this either. You're kind of seeing everything seems to be directed in this direction because the tundra cut off the board over in the other direction. Black does have a potential route this way. I could try moving my way into these mountains against green. That might be more appealing in the long run, except the tundra is heading in that direction. Another alternative is to make these areas up here a little richer because it's more likely people are going to build in them. Well, we may have just upped the birdies here, and that means, let's see, they're at 2-4. Black is at 2-4-5-6. Black's going to keep it. White isn't affected enough by nuts. Oh, maybe they are. They just have one nut, which is the same as the reptiles. So if the reptiles had that already, they would still have it, so I'm not going to recalculate or something like that. We go to the wasteland, and we got problems here. Wasteland is going to kill tundra adjacent places, matching those, and that is going to cause a recalculation here. I'll come back after I do that because that's going to require calculating 4 different critters in that jungle. It'll take a couple minutes. It's such fun. I can approximate this. Blue has 3 water next to it. They're pretty much guaranteed to hold on to it. The destruction of one grub isn't going to change that position. If red had been in the lead, I would be worried. So that'll push forward. And that brings something to mind. You know what? Maybe the people who love this game, like with some other games I've talked about that are mechanically a pain in the ass, maybe they play it on a computer where it's constantly updating these for them. Or an electronic version. Now, I don't like my board games that way, but I sure the hell don't like having to count again and again and again. Of course, even if they are playing an electronic version to make their own strategy, they have to get used to making all these countings on every single hex during, you know, the period when they're looking at, well, their next action. Because quite frankly, things change as you're waiting for your turn. You can't be completely calculated until it's your turn to pick up anyway. I see this game as just kind of hellish, to tell you the truth. All right. Let's go here. Red's going to say no to this depletion. Actually, that stays there. It just doesn't take effect. They have the option of triggering it, but they have no desire to. That would only hurt their position more up here. And now we're going to be on a glaciation. Let's see. Blue wants to hurt the other leaders, green and red. What do we want to glaciate? Well, we'd like to glaciate a 3-pointer like this, but that would... that hurts an area where I have dominance, but I don't have power, and it would take away a lot of red pieces. It doesn't really hurt green, though. On the other hand, here I'm clearly just hurting red and green, although not by much. I'll get rid of a green space. See, this one will get me more points though. I get 6 points instead of 3. But I am giving up a dominant space, but one that I probably don't really want to score. Hard call, isn't it? I'll go for the points. I'm not sure it's the best move. But essentially, since we're not going to change the environment at all, people just get some of their tokens back. I think I threw one there. I don't know. Not sure if I did or not. I wasn't really looking through the camera. I was just... Oh, I can't remember if I scored my points either. Shit. All this mechanical stuff and holding up camera at the same time doesn't work too well, does it? Let's see. I don't think I scored 6 points on there. I think they're this far ahead. That definitely changes the nature though. But blue only has 1 domination point. They're already got something to score. This doesn't really hurt them too much. The only real danger is this is pushing the glaciation in their direction. This other one maybe is cutting off and making this expansion green's doing over here less likely or valuable. Okay, let me do some speciation and I'll come back after. Alright, good old white expanded quite heavily in this area with the mammals. Over here our insects didn't have enough pieces to fully fill what they were doing. They picked this space. They put 1 in here and a bunch in there to give themselves scoring opportunities. Now, of course, with all the migration going on, who knows what's going to stick and what's not, but at least that sets it up so that maybe other people have to do something. And now we're pushing... Ah! I got another speciation. I could take one of those and put it anywhere, but I'm good with what I did. Now we go to Wanderlust, and blue. Blue wants to create more water. Where? Here, I get more points. And see, I don't have a good answer of what to put where. I get more points here too. I'm not sure I really want to put a savanna up there because those are available for richer speciation, although maybe. It'll open up my options. I think I'm going to place in here. I'm going to drop water. Now I want to add my water to the things where I am. Well, in particular to this wetland, but I might as well give some water to this desert. Yeah, that makes sense. But first thing is, I've got a triple, so I get 6 more points for that. Grab some more score. And now there's a migration opportunity. Now, let me see if I've increased my options here. I'm up to 3, 4, 5 there, whereas red is at 4, 5. So I've taken away red's cone there. Over here, I would have the automatic advantage. I do have a migration coming, so I'm going to move in there. Oh, it's not my move first. No, sorry. Doesn't work that way. We go to mammals, reptiles, birds. Now it's my move. So I'll move in there. Now it's on the arachnids. They also probably want to push at least a piece in, maybe 2, to balance things out. They don't have as much possession as I do, but they also are migrating, so it seems worthwhile to push pieces in this direction in general. I think I do want to keep a piece here. I almost certainly want a piece there though, so I'm actually going to do it this way. That gives me the point value there at this moment, but now the last thing to be able to choose to go in there is green. And See, green's not going to get the points for this, nor are they going to get the dominance. But I'll move a couple in there. They're also having a migration coming forward, so it's not really a big deal for them. That was the first Wanderlust. Red's got the next one. Red would like grubs. They don't have that option, so they get to put something else in play. Well, I've got a couple of criteria here, right? Let's put something not necessarily good or bad, it doesn't really matter, but let's put something in one of these 3 spots so we get the most points off of it. I'm not sure why I took one. It was obvious blue was going to take something, and I'm not going to get much advantage off this. So I guess what I want to do is I want to add something that that's not going to help green or blue particularly, because they're my big opponents. Now, I would like to use it to kind of cut off green's world, perhaps. So let's do that. Let's take a bone. Nobody really likes bones. And should we make it a desert? Yeah, we don't want anybody squirming in here terribly much. So we'll put a desert, and we're definitely going to put that up on this mountain, and I think over there. Now this is a 3 space, so I again get 6 points for red. And now we go to yellow, who certainly wants to, oh, nobody can go here. Well, wait, black can. And maybe they want to. Maybe that tundra is not as interesting to them as shifting into the desert. I'm not sure. But they get more points if they trigger the desert. 4 points instead of 1. Of course, they're giving up the parity on the tundra. So now blue gets this survival card. Not that that matters too much, but like the cones, it's kind of nice to be aware of what the board looks like point-wise. I guess you only have to actually figure out the cones when the score actually happens. But you can't plan unless they're there. So our final Wanderlust is, of course, going to be adding some nuts to the board. And yellow can use points. So they're going to throw their savanna down here. Question is where I want to put that second nut. Do I want to put it in the wetlands so that I can actually maybe score some points down there? Or do I want to heavily influence this? I don't know. But I'm going to get a quick 6 points. I'll put this here because wetlands is of some value. My thing comes off. Now we get to expand. Who gets to expand first? Mammals get to go first. They definitely want to commit into this. The mountains aren't terribly interesting to them. So we'll pull out of there. Pull out of there. And nobody's going to get over here. So we're just going to toss a whole bunch of stuff in here. No reason not to. Nobody else is going to be able to expand easily, and I get a migration after everything except red. So who's our next option here? The reptiles. Do they want to go into the savanna? They have dominance here. They're not going to have control of it, so they might as well spread into another one. Hey, then we go to the birdies, and the birdies would like this. Right now, they would be at 2. The reptiles are at, 4. The reptiles are at 2, 3, 4. So I can't get dominance there. I can't get more pieces. But if I throw 2 in there, I get a higher score if that gets triggered for some reason. Unlikely to happen. That's the end of Wanderlust, and we go to Migration. These I'm going to take offline because they really do take a lot of tactical thought right at the moment, and it's not that interesting. So after our movement, let's see, blue pulled some more pieces in here. They screwed up. They left a piece here. I'm not going to try to recover that. I hope they didn't move there intentionally because they're just shafted. You see white is trekking across the tundra. The uninhabitable tundra because of their special ability where they can keep one piece alive. And they're going to make it out here and see if they can play in that area, maybe gain some points more easily. They've also spread around here a little bit more, encompassing and strengthening themselves. You see blue has pushed its way further towards that new end where things are interesting. But this is just becoming an ugly pile. With the catastrophe gone, there's no more risk to that. That's okay. I mean, who knows what any of that signifies anyway. It's like with a CDG where you're playing cards, you know, for the weather or whatnot, but this whole game is like that. There's just no feeling that you're really associated with something real at all, or that the game is associated with something real. It's just, it somehow just doesn't ignite that in me. And it may be the mechanical complexity drives away from thinking, but it's also, there's the reality issue. It doesn't make sense. You know, it doesn't make sense that there are only amphibians up in this area of the world and only mammals down here and stuff like that, and especially only insects in this. It just doesn't make sense to me. Okay. The game should be more about niches. It shouldn't try to create a map with particular things. It should... Or if it means to be as abstract a representation as I think it would have to be to make any sense whatsoever, the designer should go into that. Hey, this isn't how a real map would, of course, exist, but what I'm doing is I'm representing various ecological niches, maybe within the same environments in general. And it doesn't really represent a growing world, which makes no sense. But the ice sheets are trying to represent the coming of the Ice Age in that sort of way. And it's just weird. It doesn't fit together in my mind, and maybe I need a little push to make the story make any sense whatsoever. Okay. So, we're on to competition, and Red has some interesting picks to begin with. They're going to get Jungle, Wet, and Tundra. Now, I'm going to remember, the spider gets a freebie, but I'm going to kill this with the Wetland. It looks like I'm not in a jungle anymore. Somebody froze that. But I can kill something in the tundra. There's plenty of places I can kill in the tundra. And then I get a freebie. Where does my freebie want to go? I'll pop green off in this desert because I don't like green. I don't have a... Oh, I have this blue in the savannah I can kill. So that'll be my freebie. Hey, is somebody else in control now? Time to recalculate, right? 2, 3 versus 1. Green's now in control here in the savannah again. And then for my cost ones... Oh, wait, I took a blue. These are actually dead. And then... Do I want to keep pumping blue pieces away? I'll pump blue out of here as well. Get rid of another dominant space. Who's dominant now? 3... for green, 3 for red. Black has 3. Black has 4. And yellow has 1. So this is now a black-dominated space. Great. Okay. So that takes care of red's actions on that. Now black's got 2 competitions. Wow. Their first one's Mountain, Sea, Tundra. So here's the thing, what does black want to hit particularly? Do they want to hit red and green who are in the lead and aren't really their competitors? Or do they want to keep blasting poor yellow further and further? I don't know. Let's pick on... See, yellow's dominance here may mean that... No, I won't get a point from that. The hell with them. Let's get rid of that. That's a tundra. I'm going to be able to do 2 tundras. I'm going to do these simultaneously. Let's get rid of that tundra. Now I've got 1 mountain, 2 seas, and a jungle. In the mountain... Well, this is my only mountain. I'll pop off a white piece. 2 seas. This is my only sea area that I'm in. What do I want to do? Yeah, I'm going to keep picking on the loser. You know, I just want to make a position, and hitting the guy who's in second to last may be my best move for that. Oh, no, I'm going to kill one green here, because that knocks green completely out of that terrain. I don't think it matters much. Green's not going to get a point either way, but yeah, it doesn't matter. I want to kill white pieces, because white's my competition, as I see it. And now I've got a jungle, and there actually is no more jungle on the board. So these come back. And now it's time to play the scoring game. I'll do that offline as well. Looking at the scoring, blue's got a serious issue on their domination choice. They dominate two areas. Looking at their non-domination choices, here 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 2, 4, 6, 8. They could get the majority score for this, which would be 9, give them 4 points on red, their closest competitor. That sounds pretty impressive compared to their next best option, which, well, this one would not be a good option, right? Because they're ranking third there against their two closest competitors. Their next best option appears to be here, where they'd get a point. However, and they'd get dominance here, but everywhere else they're kind of in a worse position, in part because they lost this jungle space, their own doing, and threw some of their cubes back. But they do want to take this one, even though it only gives them 1 point in advantage of red, for the simple fact that the next player to go is green, and the card Niche Biomes is going to cause them to lose 9 more points, because green's going to pick that C, and it's going to cost both red and blue 9 points. Now that's good bonus for red too, actually, but this is what I want to do. I want to score this for only 1 point, putting my disc there, just to make sure that this does not score. Green also plays grabbing that 9 points for them alone, putting them into second place. They grab the eco-diversity, get more victory points. There are interesting things here. The disease and the symbiote would definitely be valuable, but I'm judging that those are going to be more valuable as long-term picks. Yes, it's going to suck to lose one of my attributes, and it may kill off some of my critters, but right now I want these points. 1 victory point for each element disc on Earth that matches an element type on my animal. So I have green, blue, and yellow, and there's a lot of points in this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I think I miscounted. I think it's 17, but let me redo. 1, 2, I love counting, you see. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. No, it's only 16 points. That may have been a better play for blue as well. How much would they have gained from this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, some 12 points. Let me give the 16 to green. That's going to put them in pretty good shape. Up to 90 in first place. Sweet, huh? You know, you got to choose. Blue may have made a mistake by taking that instead, but it becomes this victory point calculation thing. I hate adding. I hate comparing all kinds of things. I hate looking at all those little things. So, you know, quite often I'll miss that kind of stuff. I'd rather play on instinct. This is a game where you can't play on instinct. It's a game of comparative calculation. Whoever calculates more often, more effectively, more efficiently is going to be the person who's got the opportunity to make the choices, you know? But it really is so much about being aware of your calculations, as so many Euros are. I like the lighter ones because generally those calculations don't actually have to be always counted up. Fortunately for red, they have dominance nowhere, unless I, you know, lost track and didn't count correctly. And I don't feel like going through those all because I love counting so much, and this game forces it on me so much. So they just dropped here. Basically 3 choices that looked valuable were these 3. This one doesn't help blue at all. It gives an 8-4, a 4-point difference. However, on green. However, this one gave me a 4-point difference on blue and a 6-point difference on green, and an advantage on everyone else, although that probably doesn't matter. So you can see blue is pulled back ahead. It's a close race for at least 2 of the 3 players, and probably red's still in it. Yellow, you know, they're pretty far behind. If they had an impressive board presence, they might be in it, but they do not. And I think white's too far behind to catch at this point. Let's see if we can score white, though. They're going to get some significant points here because they get a dominance. They get a wetland, which gives them 8 quick points. And now we get to choose which one. A new species onto every tile already containing one of your species. That would be kind of cool. A bunch of new pieces that I don't have to spend an action for. Alternatively, however, I could improve my survivability. I can gain a random element. Each creature that has fewer elements than me would gain one too, though. And I have a lot of elements there. That would definitely help this guy. That would help my insects, arachnids. I don't see doing that. The diseases each having more elements than me, that's no one, and I'm willing to discard one. So I'm going to go with the fecundity. I think that's the best I can do. And I get a bunch of new pieces that I get to drop. I can't put this here. It's going to die if I do that. But I can drop some pieces elsewhere on the board to kind of fortify my position. That puts us finally on yellow, who also seems to have no dominance anywhere, and nowhere where they're going to score a lot of points. They could give a dominance event to black. By doing so, I might get a random element. That sounds promising. So I'm going to drop. Alternatively, I get more points here. No, I get the same points either place, and I get to give a dominance event to black that I think will help me. So I'll give that out. It's only a mount. Oh, I don't get any points there. In the Savannah, at least. Oh no, I get second place. In the Savannah, I get 4 points. In the mountain, I only get 2. Let's just go for the points. We give 7 points to the white player. 4 to me. And that gives 2 to the black character. And he's not going to get an action off that. And that puts us in the cleanup phase. Let's see if anything. And at the end of the turn, we killed off 1 blue that was kicking around here that didn't have any support out here. Everything else looks like it survived. New card. This is the end of game card. That's not all it does. I didn't realize this. Each animal gets bonus victory points based on the total number of tiles it currently dominates. Which means if you can acquire dominance in a lot of tiles, you can get some heavy points. But you have the alternative, because remember, on the last turn of the game, every single tile on the board is scored. So you have kind of this dichotomy, but it isn't really. You want to be positioned in a lot of tiles so you get points. You want to be positioned well in high scoring tiles because they generate points. And you want to align yourself with where you can dominate with at least one piece, because dominance doesn't require a lot of pieces. It just requires that you exist somewhere where the tokens work well. What that means is you do have to worry about your chits, your little environmental chits, to make sure that they still align well with you even in the last turn. Because although the cards that are available may not generally be terribly effective, this one gives points to everyone, for example. Well, and the other two don't strongly help or hurt, although they are going to affect things because they affect dominance, right? Symbiosis and disease. So there is some definite intention here. My guess is this will be the last card because these two both provide an advantage to the person who draws it. Although they weren't taken yet, this next turn, whoever jumps into the domination race first will get that. But you do have to still worry about where your points are spread. Getting that last migration is going to be important and everything. The chance of getting it through the initiative check is good. Getting more pieces on the board so you can score more. All these things are still in application. It's not like the last turn is significantly different in terms of what you're trying to set up. And I think that's a nice feature, actually. I hate when a game creates this very different feel on the last turn towards what you want to do just because it's the last turn. Oh, I'm going to grab these 3 victory spots in Dune and end the game there. I love Dune, and I understand thematically and subject-wise why that's the case, but it feels a little cheap in some games, certainly. Maybe not so much in Dune, but Machiavelli I know people have complained about. Even Dune I know people have complained about. I got this huge army ready to hit you and you just won. Yeah, we knew what the victory conditions were. I can see your gripe. How did that army get stopped? But, you know, you could have moved them. You could have done something. Anyway, in this case, I think it works kind of nicely because it means you don't shift gears, and shifting gears would have just been for a random reason. It's the end of the game, guys. That doesn't seem to be the case. There's also nicely a few more Tundra tiles left. If people had been slower about calling out the domination cards, there would be time for more play. Luckily there isn't. That's not to say that there isn't some sort of difference, though, in the way to approach this final turn. First of all, you know what the scores are, you know where people are, you know what your chances of overtaking someone are. That's, I think, given in a game that has fixed victory point track that everyone can see, an open victory point track. But another is I'm looking at blue here, and immediately I start thinking towards the middle of the game I was hitting lots of domination events. It's not absolutely clear that's my goal now, in particular. A domination event allows me to score. That's nice. But I'm going to get a lot of score very soon. It's more important where my board position is maybe than scoring. But in light of that, it is still important. First of all, I get a second score in terms of, yeah, if I get a good score off my domination pick, that could mean another 4 or 5 points over the leader, maybe 9 points if I'm clever, but I don't think blue's position is such that they can get a big score off someone. But the other is, I have to keep in mind that these are still present and can give me value. Now the Ice Age one does not. That ends the game and might actually cause someone to go for a non-dominant pick. It's possible the game will not end on this turn. They can take a domination choice and go where no one's dominant, but they have more pips and get some points and try to rack up the score over this turn and stretch the game out another turn or whatever. I don't think that's going to be terribly effective, but unless you have domination in a lot of areas, you don't particularly want that Ice Age to trigger. Blue is going to take a domination pick anyhow, because there are these symbiote and disease options up there, which can increase the ability to achieve domination or survival in various spaces. So that is an advantage, an edge that he wants to have. And I think we're going to see the next player, green, probably make the same pick. I can't see anything else more important than getting one of these cards and the advantage that it has. Maybe I'm wrong. Nobody's going to go for Glaciation because blue's already got the only pick. There's not going to be another Glaciation after that one, so it's of no importance. Okay, well, we see the dominations fall quickly, and then once they're out of the way, what happens? Well, red goes up, grabs an adaption. More tiles, right? Better stuff going. But yellow and black and white pick Wanderlust. There's point bonuses for taking a Wanderlust, and they can help their position on the board a little bit, is what they're looking at. So they're going to grab some quick extra points for the Wanderlust tiles, White's is less valuable, perhaps. White may be interested in getting a dominate for the extra points from that wetland in particular, or whatever maybe they add here, but they're also want to make sure they put out more stuff that they like on the board in more valuable places, like rather than the tundra, they want to be in places where they can score decent points. In this piece, well, he can get a couple of points in the desert maybe, but he might do better somewhere else. Of course, he's got to worry because black can slip into wherever he goes. I wanted to also highlight, I'm not putting the cylinders up here anymore. I've started moving them down here. So what I'll do, the reason is because the first time I did this, something went up in the initiative box, and immediately it became a little more confusing what's going on there. So if you do try this solitaire for whatever reason, and I strongly advise against it, I think it's probably best in lots of players. I saw some advice that the two-player game kind of sucks for a way to learn and understand the game. And obviously solitaire is putting even more burden on the player to be doing all the calculating. At least if you're playing 6-player as one of the 6 players, you can maybe just be keeping an eye on the things you're interested in and more aware of the scores in that area. You don't have to worry about the whole board as much. Still, I think the game would be improved greatly played on a computer with maybe a time limit so that you don't have a lot of time where you have to count up decisions on your own turn available, because otherwise somebody's going to sit back and count and try to optimize their best move way too much, using up everybody's time. Alright, set up for the next round of play. Next time around, blue goes in for an adaptation. This may be iffy. It means Symbiote is not interesting to them, but they get first choice. Nobody's going to have more than me, so disease is just a protective choice. That may not have been so wise, but that's where they went. And then basically they didn't have a good choice in domination, but then we see the rest of the dominations filled out. Green making the decision that I think I can win if I get that Ice Age. I think I dominate enough areas that triggering that off at this point may be my best move. Now, of course, I may decide otherwise when I get to the point, and I may trigger off another space and not take that third domination. But if I do that, the chances are that either yellow or black may just end the game with the, especially black, with the, I can't win this, the hell with it. Black's also got a number of domination spaces, which is of some value to them as well. So it looks like it is going to end. Thank God. We also see white. White played for a wasteland. They've got 2 things at risk that they don't want to see die. The nuts, where there's 3 nuts on the board, and maybe more importantly, the bones there. Bones are really important to them. If they get rid of nuts, that doesn't necessarily hurt them so much, although they'd have to get out of one of these tundras, then maybe both of them. So they're going to be looking at a migration in the future. We see red went out with another adaptation. That makes the domination pick unimportant to them, but they're not going to get one. That was perhaps a mistake. They should be scoring areas that are important to them. They're falling behind here. Unless people hand them the win, I don't think they're going to be able to get it. We'll see. Because enriching where they can live might be important. What is going to become important is the migration ability. And actually, unlike most of the times, not so much the last migration necessarily. Just being able to spread out is really important because you'll score in a lot of different places. So getting a lot of migration here is of more importance than it usually is. Usually you only need as much as you need to tip the balance in the spaces that you really want to control. Which, you know, sometimes can be a decent amount of pieces, but usually it's not too important to move too many. It's more important to move last. And we'll set up the next strand. And a couple quick plays into the migration because of that very thought. But then some movement into speciation, get some more pieces on the board. Even yellow with only 3 pieces is actually going for that. He needs what little he can get on the board, essentially. And white comes back with a migration there. That is it for yellow, actually. They're not going to get a movement in this. Oh, black threw into a competition as well. This looks like a very, what is it, sea mountain tundra. This looks like a very good combination of places for them to hit. At least just to target some enemies and maybe make some ground. But they're probably stuck in last pretty much no matter what they do. The Ice Age may help them, though. They have a lot of dominance on the board. Now hitting the bottom of the pile in terms of what's being chosen. A couple more migrations picked out. Another speciation, a good one for blue. They've got a lot of pieces that they can throw on the board. They've fallen behind because of this. Getting those on with the big migration is going to be nice. And seeing a wasteland cancel, that may have happened last time. I think that this happened this time. Maybe I'm mistaking it. And then red going for an abundance, planning on putting some more grubs on the board. Just, you know, I've got another piece left still for red, which we got some targeting too going on down here now. I don't know what red wants to do with its final pick. I don't have all that many pieces, so I think another speciation is probably not really warranted. I have no migration in place. That's probably the best thing I can do, although maybe a targeted competition could do me a great deal of good. There's just no way to tell which of these things. I've already got a freebie that I can take against this or something. Who knows? But getting more just doesn't seem like it's going to do me a whole lot. Alright, it's going to be chaotic in the last turn. First of all, a lot of discs on the board, as you can see, but also his desire to spread out. A little bit different strategies for people. Everybody migrating, basically, except yellow. So it should be kind of interesting to see this turn out as a sort of more chaotic version of most of the other, you know, chaotic point counting turns. So, given the dominance factor in the Ice Age, red has to kind of decide what they want to go for. They're guaranteed to get a green if they want it, but would they rather a grub or an orange? Probably comes down to a choice of one or the other. The grub, if they don't take it, blue can match them on grubs, which might weaken them, but there aren't a whole lot of grubs on the board. The sun might give me a strong advantage in this area and any expansion in that direction. So I'm going to go with that. I think that's the more appealing right now. That's what I was intending for. That leaves blue with a choice that's not terribly good between two things they already have. They can't extend their size, but they're going to just take a grass. Grass looks a lot more common than grubs in the areas blue is in. And red is also going to take a grass. And now it's time to recalculate all the dominance between red and blue in the areas they're in, which is only half the map, right? Those completely nonsensical moments, this ends up being a black-dominated area, which, you know, kind of calls into question all of the areas, because, and maybe my counting at this moment as well. What did I count for them? 3, 6 for blue, 7 when they added, 8 when they added the green. Hold on, they got an extra green. Maybe it's not black. Black has 1, 2, 3, God, I hate counting. 4, 5, 6, 7. What did I say for blue? It was 8. Yeah, this goes to blue. They were tied. It was correct before. It's my counting at the moment that's bad. And of course, at any given moment, my counting may be wrong. I can see this devolving into 3-minute discussions and recounts and everything when one person says, oh no, that's wrong, you know. Fun. Pushing on before I forget any more. We've got this regression here that could go over for the reptiles, but they have the ability to avoid it. No one else has any bones. Over to here. Now red gets to add something. Well, clearly they want more grubs on the board. They're the only person terribly interested in grubs. So grubs it is, but where? This is kind of interesting. They can't enrich any of these locations here. They could expand here. They don't have a lot of movement available to them, so they'd probably rather not do that. I think what they're going to do is try to pop green out of here, because they can't really get rid of blue. Blue gained another dominance here, legitimately. I could drop in here, and I think that would give me dominance there. This would allow expansion into there. Yeah, let's put it here. I think this will give me the most options. Wasteland pick is next. White wants to prevent bones from getting hurt, but that does mean we lose a bunch of tundra-based nuts. Now, that's going to cause some problem here, perhaps, although I don't think so. Black and white are about the same, so no reason to actually calculate it. I don't want to see doing that. Depletion, nobody picked. We'll go to the glaciation. Alright, glaciation. Blue went into here. That killed off some grasslands. I'm assuming that's not going to change dominance there. They got their 3 points, putting them a little in the lead. No good locations to drop a glacier. No big, 6-pointer or whatever. So now we're pushing to speciation, and we're just going to be tossing some extra pieces down. Yellow took a nut. They're only going to get 3 pieces. God knows where they want to go. I've got Wanderlust coming up, which could be useful here. So I'm going to throw... do I need two to beat mammals there? 1 there. We'll see where we end up going in the long run, but that's all that's doing. And I'll finish the rest of them up offline. With those, blue expanded into this area, and you can see they got dominance here, took some away here. Red expanded in this direction. The only thing they invaded was this forest, but that's really more of a, hey, have some presence there and then push down. They've got a lot of pieces in that area there. Now, no insects to get their bonus. Hey, I remembered it this time. And we go to Wanderlust. I'm going to see some serious points going forward here. I've got 3-point connection ones here, so yellow and black are going to certainly generate some points there. They're going to be going into here and here, I believe. It's just a choice of what they want to pick, and yellow, I think, is going to try to put the wetlands there. They get more value out of it, but then the next one, forest or savanna, they're essentially the same. The question there then becomes, well, what does black get to target? None of those. White gets to target savanna, so forest is probably more valuable. In general, they're pretty much the same, but when you've got competitions pre-programmed, it does become kind of interesting. And after the Wanderlusts, indeed the wetlands, the forest, a lot of movement. Black's gotten control of both of those. White moved out of the tundra, grabbing this. They've got the ability to compete there where they'll actually win if they move in there, and they've got some movement left. They don't have a lot of pieces available to them on the board, though, so they're not going to generate a lot. But we've got the interesting situation with a lot of dominance markers on the board right now. How much that's going to change? Well, dominance markers are harder to change. If you have a couple of pieces on the board, it's hard to knock you off, because if you only have one, though, competition on any particular space, competition can blow you out of that, and that I have to be careful about, to make sure that I have 2 pieces in places, especially for the people in the lead who might be targeted, because if they can be shot, they probably will, and then lose some pieces there. So I've got to be careful with that, especially with like blue, who's in the lead and going early. It may not be obvious, like there's no red competition available. Well, there's one. But I still have to worry about black or white maybe moving into my area and shooting my pieces. So I have to protect those somewhat, otherwise I'll lose the dominance. And there's a bonus, a big bonus, to the number of dominant spaces you have. Right now we've got people with 5 dominant spaces on the board. Now 5 gives you 15 points. That's a pretty hefty bonus. Blue only has 4. Actually, I think 4 may be our maximum. I thought it was 5. But there's the potential it could go up to 5. 4 is only worth 10 points. It might be enough among the leaders, probably not enough to make much difference among the trailing players, especially poor yellow, who's not going to have any, so white's going to be passing them almost certainly. Movement in this has been accomplished. Basically, you had a lot of attempts at optimizing the particular situation in light of what might get shot and what might not. You have like white coming out of the tundra and taking the desert, taking dominance. Control for dominance is important. Control of the large proportion in the area so that you score more is important. So red stuck one unit into the C here. They can't get shot by green. Green doesn't have a C competition ahead. So now it's red's turn to pick their one competition that they get to blow someone out of the water. They'd like to blow a blue piece out of the water, but blue is very careful. They put themselves so that I don't think they can be shot out of any area with a single shot. Could they be shot out of an area with two shots? Yeah, that might be an appealing attempt. So red could, for example, shoot a blue piece here or here, but this green doesn't get to attack in the sea. They only have wetlands and desert. Forest is not vulnerable to a two-shot. So really the only thing I could do to blue is take away one of their 4 dominance areas. With green's help, I'm not sure whether or not green's willing to do that. What else could green do? Green could shoot a red out of the sea here, for example, which is a conceptually valuable thing. Red is in 3rd place there. But I think they'll agree to take blue out of here, even though that means that this is going to go over to be scored by red because they're ahead here. It does mean, let's check the dominance, what that's going to be. 1, 2, 3, 4 for red. 1, 2, 3 for green. It's going to give dominance to red too, which gives red more points. But green has to worry about blue at this point and taking away whatever they can from them. So that's going to be red's attack. And actually these counters probably don't matter. I can probably just put them in with the pool. But some cards could conceivably affect it, but they won't in this game. That puts me to green. Green gets a wet desert and a tundra. And in as per their agreement, they'll shoot blue out of the tundra. And who wins this? I said red did. Hopefully I'm right. And they have a wetlands and a desert. Well, they're not in the desert, are they? That got eaten up by ice. So they have a wetlands hit they could take. Their choices are between hitting blue and red. They'll take blue out of there because blue would have gotten the maximal points for that area if they didn't. Okay, that's green's competition. White, Savannah Mountain Tundra. No reason to let this live. I'm not sure why it didn't move, but Savannah, no reason to let this live. You know, I could shoot a yellow, but that's not going to do a damn thing. Okay. I don't know, did black have a movement token? I think they did, and they didn't move because they were so spread out thinking nobody would shoot them, but they're set up to be shot all over the place. And a mountain, no reason to let that live. Again, no real reason to kill them except I got nothing better to do. Alright, that takes black out of here with the dominance and may actually give a bonus to someone. Yellow gets 2. White is going to have more than that, so it gives them a cone. So black was really foolish not running away from the areas where they were in danger of being shot. But maybe black gets revenge. Mountain Sea Tundra. Only one thing to kill in the tundra. Mountain? They got shot out of that. Ocean? Yeah, they have, they're in one here. Doesn't do much, but they'll kill a green. Might as well have some effect on play. And that actually bumps them up to 1, 2, 3, 4th place in the sea. It'll give them a couple of points. Whoopee. Not going to be enough to help. Yeah, I mean. Alright. Now it's time to make the domination picks. Now these affect the order of the cards. Blue's going to go first. Blue has a problem. They always have a problem. they don't exceed anyone anywhere except here in this stupid tundra, where they're only going to get 1 point. Whereas over here, they'd be giving red, but they've got to worry more about green right now. They'd be giving red a pile of points. I'm going to choose that ocean. I'm not going to calculate everything out, although I feel like that's what you'd have to do to play this game correctly, is count all the different options, see the balancing, see what everybody's going to possibly do. And I feel like it is calculable. It's just ridiculously so. It's, you know, like playing a solitaire game where you can count up all the different options. Actually, you have the same problem in something like History of the World. I think it's up here somewhere. Maybe not. I thought I had it up there. I don't know where I keep that sucker. History of the World has this, you know, period at the end of the game where you can count and figure out how many points you need to beat someone else. Not so much with the new version. But in this one, I feel like you have that same kind of position where you can calculate out the very end of the game to almost perfection. Anyway, what we're doing is scoring this. 9 points for red. Puts us up there. 5 points for blue. Put one of these up here to remind me. Looks like 3 points for white and just 2 points for black. Alrighty. Now to green, and yeah, we'll... Oh, and now blue gets... They picked this in part so that they would get a dominance pick. Which one do they want? They don't feel like they have a huge advantage over most of their competitors by taking the Ice Age. Is someone else going to take it, though, is the problem. Because they do have an advantage. They have... Oh, no, they only have 3 areas, which is the same as green and red. So they're not terribly interested in that. They'd be more interested in getting one of these. Each animal having more elements than yours loses one of its choice. That would be a way to prevent me from losing any. So we're going to go with that. Dominance may change when Ice Age is picked, though. That's the danger here. But we're just going to take disease, which essentially has no effect. Yay, bonus, nothing has to be recalculated. That puts us on green. Now, does green want a pick, particularly? They can get possibly more dominance by taking Symbiote. And then they have the option on Ice Age. So, we're going to aim for one. Is there anywhere where we get lots of points? Yeah, we've got this one where we can hit red. So we'll take that. And we get 9 points. Uh-oh. And red is going to get 5. And now we get our pick. We're going to take Symbiote, where we and every animal having fewer elements gets a random element. Okay, I've only got 4 elements. There's only one critter with less, which is the birds. So I get sort of a random bonus, which may change dominance in places. I got a water. That's valuable given where I am. Well, I actually am not in that many actual spaces with water. I'm in a lot of oceans, but there's no water in those oceans. And the birds also get water, which may help them. I'll come back after I calculate all those dominances. Whee! Some of those dominances were incorrect. For example, this one, green, I think, just caught up. 2, 4 versus 3, 4, 5. No, blue has one here. I think. I don't know. Who the hell can tell? 3, 4, 5 to 2, 4. And red has... Maybe it's because I just moved in here and didn't grab one. Who knows? Maybe blue's got one there too. Blue got knocked out of here, obviously. Who knows? They got knocked out of here, I think, by this one. Anyway, some of the dominances changed. Probably many of them are false. I don't want to recalculate them, but... because it's just so goddamn annoying. And that's what the game's all about. You know, I mean, what difference does it make how good your strategy is if those aren't kept correct? That's the issue. And the mechanical task of keeping them all correct is so great that I just do not believe that people actually really love this game the way they do. I guess their tolerance for keeping everything mechanically calculated is just much, much higher than mine, and they really love sitting around counting in a way that I cannot comprehend. Okay. Because the rest of the game would be fine. If you got rid of the counting, if you put and if you didn't have to count to figure out what your move should be, it would be fine. It would be a fun little game, I think. A nice little abstract. Because that's all it is. It's an abstract. It's not apropos of anything. These names are appropriate in the sense that they fit what you're doing, but that's all. They don't reflect the systems underneath in any sense. All right, so where are we? Green again. Well, green has 3 of these. That's more than red has. So I think I want the Ice Age to be fired off if I can. Can I, though? Is there some place where I'm going to create more victory points than other places? So if I fire, I don't want to fire off one of these. If I fire this off, the forest, I only get 3, red gets 5. Whereas if I fire and blue, let's worry about blue the most, I gain 3 points on blue. In the mountains, I only gain 1 point on blue. So I may actually want to help red here by firing that off. I think they're going to get less of an advantage overall. So I'll drop this in. Not going to calculate it completely out. Again, so red gets 5 points. I think that's 94, 99. And green. No, I'm only going to get 1 point on blue here. Not going to help red. No reason to do that. I thought I had the lead there or something, I guess. So yeah, I go into the mountains where I generate 3 points for myself and 2 for blue. And it's a real race between the 2 of them. And now I take the Ice Age card, and assuming everything's right, well, I'll go through them and check, and I'll come back with where the victory points are, because I think that kind of counting, although really, I should do the counting in front of you, because that's what this game is. That is what 90% of the time in this game is going to be spent on, is counting either what these are or counting them in your turns. That's what, you can't make decisions without all this counting, right? And you're constantly redoing it and redoing it. With it, I don't want to do it. I mean, I really don't. We pretend it's good. I started looking at these and I just don't give a shit. So here's the fun we're going to have. We're going to race the little cubes around the track, because it's just not worth trying to see that this is correct. It's not worth it. The game ain't worth it. Not to me. And I am stunned by the fact that this is popular. Okay. Gaming has changed a lot. People like to add. And that's all they like, I guess. Okay. Let us look at what we have. Let's start at the front of the line, because they're the people in the lead, right? So blue and green both have 3 of these, which means they're each going to get 6 points. Which puts me up to 11 and 10. Red only has 1 of these suckers, which means he gets a big point. Yellow's next, none, nothing. White, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them. That's 28 points. That's going to give him some significant room. Puts him way up there. Interesting. Plus, he's going to be scoring a decent number of things. He may actually be a threat here. I wasn't counting on that. And then finally, our black, who only has 3. That's, of course, only 6 points as with the others. He's not going anywhere. Great. Now we have scoring again. Yellow. Yellow's going to trigger off a dominance event for white, but dominance doesn't matter at this point. So, let's do this one. The hell with dominance. We get more points here. So we get 7 and white gets 4. Now white's my competition here, unfortunately. I shot black in the foot so hard. And our final pick is black. Where do they want to score? They certainly don't want to help whoever shot them. I'm trying to remember who that was. Was it white or was it yellow? I don't know. It was one of them. I can get 1 point here. I can't really gain on anybody. I'm just going to take this to not affect much because I think the decision of where to place and give other people's points and what that might be involved in, it's just too silly to go into at this point. I don't have any great memory. If I had a memory of who it was who shot all my pieces, I think it was green actually, I don't know. But I would maintain that. Now it's time to worry about the overall score. And these guys just can come off along with all the discs and everything else. None of that matters anymore. Because the only thing that matters is each hex. And you know, since people who play this enjoy counting so much, the only thing I can guess is that the excitement of counting these hexes is so great that it makes up, you know, for the tedium of having to actually make decisions or something in between the counting. All I can guess. All right, let's go ahead, because all that matters here now is the number of cubes you have and what comes out of it. And, you know, I'm making fun of it. There are definitely rich decisions. It's just the counting is such a fucking burden. All right. Let's go here. Wetlands. White. White gets 8 points. Puts them up to 102. And we'll give them a little thingy there. And I'm going to take the cubes off as I go, because there's no reason, you know, it'll make my counting easier. Oh! Geez, we had some extra things change. I hope I did the dominance from them. I think I did. All right. Yeah, I must have. Okay, so here we're in a savanna. Yellow gets 7, white gets 4. Okay, some more pieces off the board. A wetlands. Looks like white's going to get 8. Red gets 4. Still not quite over the hump. And now the ordering here is again mammal, reptile. Reptile gets 2. That's black. And what's next? Guess bird gets 1, wherever he is. And we'll take the rest of the pieces off, so we don't have to worry. Over here, we're in a forest. There's 3 white pieces. That'll give me 5 for white. Wow. Look at who's winning. Yeah, this is their side of the board, though. Red is next in a forest. That gets them 3, and they finally bump over. 1, 2, 3. Then we're on green and black. One of them is going to get 2 points. It looks like black. All right, let's work our way down here so some of these start scoring. Over here, red is in a forest. That's worth 5. We forgot to do the extinction and survival. Crap. Extinction wasn't a big deal. Survival, that's going to go to white, and he's only going to get 1 point for it. Hand that out. Extinction, I don't think anything went extinct. I think everybody was in good place. Where am I? I'm in this forest here. I just popped the reds off. Now it's between green and blue. I think blue goes first, so they get 3. And green gets 2. You can get those out of the way. Over in this ocean here, it looks like red's got more pieces, so they get 9 points. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Blue gets 5. This is the most exciting part of the game. I feel like I'm almost done. White gets 3. And then black will get a point. Nope, 2 points. How about that? This is thrilling. Okay, over here in the mountain, yellow gets 3. And white gets 2. Just look at what that board presence. I mean, white didn't have all that many pieces, did they? But they're running ahead just because they weren't so obviously, you know, they weren't a danger, it looked like. Well, they became one. Over here in the forest, white gets 5. But we don't know. There's still a lot of places where there are no white pieces. In the mountain, they get 3 more. But one has to be impressed with what they're doing here. They get a point in the tundra. Black gets a point in the tundra. Woo! Up here, now red's going to get 9 in the sea. That's some big change there. Now blue's problem, they were in the lead, but they weren't able, because of the movement order, to be ahead anywhere. So they only get 5 points here in the ocean. And then green gets almost as many, 3, but they look like they're falling behind significantly. Up here, green gets to score this sucker for 9 again, and red gets 5. White has a savanna all to themselves. That's 7 points. Their own little playground down there. Up here, red gets to go first and they get the point. Nothing for green. Up here, red takes 9. Then we got a blue for 5. And green gets 3. Swing back up. Blue gets the point here. Sorry about that fast pan. Up here, red gets the wetlands. That's 8. Red's looking pretty good, aren't they? And look at how much score is accumulating from the end of the game stuff. I've heard about this. Blue gets 4. And green gets 2. Coming back around in the desert. White goes before, so white gets 4 points. And black gets 2. In the mountains, green gets 3. And blue gets 2. And then finally here in the savannah, blue beats out red, so they get 7 points. They're not going to do it. Red gets 4. And green gets 2. And that's what we got right there. Ignore that black piece, and the yellow piece is ahead of it actually. But other than that, red ended up with the win. How did that happen? Darned if I know. It looked like white was going to run away with quite a bit of distance in that first part. And, you know, they scored themselves some significant bonus off of having the extra dominant spaces because nobody was too worried about them. Beyond that, what happened? The 2 leading players knocked down fairly easily, fairly deeply, and the 3rd place player took the lead there. It's impressive to see what white managed to do. Anyway, this has been one hell of a long video. I think you can tell I really despise this game. And if you want to hear in more detail, I'll come back with a review. And it won't just be about how I despise the game, but to try to investigate what it is that I think people see in it and where the difference is, and maybe some discussion about there are some other games that I feel Eurogamers really love or look at with a great deal of, you know, respect, and I just don't get why they're worth it to them. And I don't know, some philosophy and such, and probably some pipe smoking and tea drinking.